Hello every pony and welcome to Brony FanFics. Today, Crisis Equestria Chapter 18. Last time the main six got away using, TikTok stopped time. The Red Velvet got her ass beat down by Silver Tongue. And Silver Tongue is worried that the mean six, as Ganon calls them, are beginning to experience emotions, which he does not want. So, without any more delay, Crisis Equestria, Chapter 18, Inquiry. So are these the Gryphon Ruins? Flathoof hummed as he looked around the large chamber they'd chosen to rest in. The place certainly seems to have been built rather than naturally formed. Glad to hear Detective Flathoof is on the case, TikTok chuckled. What was your first clue? Flathoof laughed. Apart from the smoothed out passages and, the stairs? Not much really. Just my natural sleuthing skill telling me what's what. Oh, that and those statues of, griffins. Twilight Sparkle and her friends, somehow safe from their pursuers, took some time to recuperate and observe their surroundings. This place they'd come to was completely different from the caverns of Goldridge in more ways than one, almost as if they suddenly walked into another world. The grand chamber they found themselves in now seemed to be a type of entryway, perhaps a lobby with walls that was smooth and made of a silvery material that glimmered like silver yet felt like brick. Definitely not natural in its distribution, and possibly not even in origin. Despite the place appearing to have long been abandoned, everything made of that silvery material seemed to be in excellent condition. The walls that encircled them were dusty and worn, but had minimal visible damage. The stairway had led further down into the catacombs. Could still be considered pristine. Were it not for layers upon layers of dirt and dust, great columns stood firm and tall, and commemorative plaques remained discernible, and marvellously crafted statues stayed as rigid and true as if they'd just been sculpted the day before. The metal, whatever it was, seemed extremely resilient to damage. What had once been decorative vines and leaves and flowers that should have been long since decomposed appeared to have fossilized instead. To the curiosity of those who cared, it was almost as if they were made of the same stuff as the rest of the chamber, they were so deeply ingrained. The chamber was, in the most simple terms, deserted, and from the lack of noise or light coming from the only way out of the room, the stairs, they could tell the entire area was in a similar state. There was no sound coming from their surroundings save for their own echoes, and the only source of light was the magical flame that Twilight had created. As she'd done the first 2 nights the party had made camp in the wilderness, they had to admit it certainly wasn't as bright or warm as the ones Havoc Wing had been making the past 3 days, but it served its purpose, and at last this strange place wasn't too cold. Because of the party's condition, Twilight had opted on placing up a warding spell around them, to alert them to anything, or any pony, as she was more concerned with, approaching them. Normally that kind of duty was left to Rainbow Dash, but right now that wasn't an option, not with Pinkie Pie still reeling from her encounter, and the Pegasus unwilling to leave her side for long. Normally at this horrible hour they'd all be asleep, but throes of paranoia managed to grip them. Only Lockwood found the urge to actually sleep, and indeed slept soundly. Flathoof whistled as he eyed the particularly large statue in the corner of the room, of a griffin wearing what looked like robes. He was easily the size of 30 ponies, impressive enough that if the thing were alive it could give an adult gargantuan a run for its bits. I remember reading about this place in school. Are all the stories about this place true? Pretty much all of them, she nodded. What was left of the Gryphon race was wiped out after a massive war some 800 or 900 years back. And so now, this is all that remains of their culture. No pony knows how it happened either. One day the Gryphons were here, the next day they weren't. Complete extinction in a matter of hours, if the history books are to be believed. That's horrible, Twilight muttered. Who could do such a thing? No pony knows for sure. It was a long time ago and there wasn't a public record of the event. All that we know is what was passed on by those who were building New Pandemonium at the time. Nothing much else to go on. All that was definitely confirmed was that it happened in a single day, and nobody knows exactly how or why. Still, wow, Twilight hummed. This place certainly fits the bill, though. I find it strange, though. It doesn't look like any fighting took place here. It's unsettling. Spooky, if you ask me. Flav shuddered. You don't suppose the place is haunted, is it? What's the matter, big guy? Applejack smirked. You're all scared of ghosts? Flav stayed silent a moment, then nodded glumly. I didn't used to worry of stuff like that. I ain't scared of it. I ain't scared or anything. I'm just disturbed by the thought. Things have got me thinking lately, and well, I'm just a little unsettled by the thought of somebody dying and wandering Equestria forever, you know? Not being able to rest. Applejack frowned a moment, and made to offer a huffing consolation, but thought better of it. Tick-Tock stepped over and took it upon herself to do what Applejack hadn't, making Applejack click her tongue and turn away in disgust. Hey, relax there, Fat Huff, Tick-Tock assured him. Believe me, I've seen a lot of weird stuff in my day, and I can assure you there isn't such thing as ghosts. That friend of yours, she's not wandering around in Pandemonium as a spirit or anything of the sort. Flav gave a small smile. I appreciate the sentiment. Thanks, Tick-Tock. Tick-Tock nodded. At any rate, the Gryphon Ruins certainly do have a spooky air about them, don't they? I've always known they were here, but this is my first time seeing them for real. Ponies don't come here, you know. They're frightened of the place. I think they'll all believe the same as you do, Flathead. Load of rubbish, all of it. Twilight said thoughtfully. Frankly, I think this place is kind of nice. If a bit dark and gloomy, the quiet is rather comforting. Her horn glowed dimly, and a simple restomancy spell directed at Pinkie Pie, who was lying still on the floor below. Rainbow Dash keeping her hind legs straight so that Twilight could repair the minor damage that had been done. Pinkie's eyes were red, her mane and tail considerably less poofy and curly, and her mouth turned in a frown so deep it was contagious. Is she going to be okay, Twi? My voice isn't doing too good today, so I don't know how well I'm going to do these voices, but Rainbow asked with concern. She'll be fine, Twilight nodded firmly. Nothing's broken, and she's certainly in better shape than Tick-Tock was when I healed her back in the city. I'm starting to think taking basic restomancy was a good idea after all. I'll remember to thank my mum when we get back home. Rainbow sighed and ran her hoof through Pinkie's bubbly mane. You hear that, Pinks? Your leg's going to be fine. You're going to be fine, okay? If you say so, Pinkie mumbled. I still can't get those images out of my head, Dashi. Rainbow remained silent, but nudged herself closer. I don't want to even think about the kind of bad thing that could happen to you out here. But that psycho, she forced me to think about it. It was horrible. She sniffed and buried her face into Rainbow's mane for what had been the 10th time in the past hour or so. Rainbow hugged Pinkie as tight as she could. Hey, come on, Pinks. I told you. Ain't nothing gonna make me kick the bucket anytime soon. Got that? Come on. Where's the Pinkie Pie smile, huh? She smiled, holding Pinkie up by the chin. Pinkie nodded glumly with a forced smile, if nothing just to put Dash at ease. The gesture failed miserably, as Dash could see the smile wasn't genuine. Pinkie wanted to believe it, that nothing bad was going to happen, but something inside her told her she was wrong. If anything happened to Rainbow Dash, or to any of her friends for that matter, she didn't know what she'd do. I know what will get you to turn that frown upside down, Pinks. Rainbow brightened. Hey, Fluttershy, tell that joke from back at summer flight school. You know the one. Oh, Fluttershy mumbled. I don't think it's very funny. Oh, come on, Fluttershy, it's hilarious. Rainbow prodded. Every pony has ever heard it has laughed at it. I ain't ever heard Fluttershy even tell a joke before. Applejack scratched her head. Didn't think it was really her thing. See? Fluttershy shrunk back. It's not very... Oh please, no pony here has heard it. Rainbow dismissed. Well, maybe Rarity, but... I can't say I've ever heard my dear Fluttershy tell any jokes. I'm quite intrigued. Rarity grinned. Yeah, let's hear it, Sugar Cube. Applejack encouraged. Oh, but... Come on, Fluttershy, Rainbow said eagerly. Oh, okay, Fluttershy gulped. Knock, knock. Who's there? Rainbow answered. An interrupting cow. Interrupting cow? Fluttershy interrupted. Moo. Every pony remained completely silent for a moment, until Fluttershy spoke up again. Oh, I'm sorry. Rainbow Dash started laughing. Applejack right along with her. Even Rarity and Twilight were chuckling along rather heartily. Rainbow rubbed Pinky's shoulder, making the pink pony's frown slowly start to waver, though it sure wasn't upside down yet. It wasn't even on its side, but it was a start. And there we go, Twilight announced as she shut off her spell. Done. She should be good to move on her own in maybe 20 minutes, but until then she should remain as still as possible to make sure everything gets patched up properly. You understand? Understand, Pinky? Stay still. Fine. Pinky grumbled. Relax, Pinks. Rainbow said with a reassuring pat on the Earth Pony's back. Treat it like a game. You like party games, yeah? I guess, Pinky sniffed. Rainbow frowned, then had an idea. Hey, I know. How about a prize then? Rainbow smiled. If you win, you get a super awesome prize, okay? We'll save it until we all make it home, though, okay? Look, you can even compete with Rarity. She pointed at Rarity, who lay nearby in a similar state of rest. The one who can stay still the longest wins. No point in having a prize if you're not competing for it, right? Me? Heavens, Rainbow Dash, don't involve me in this. Rarity huffed with a flick of her mane. I'm trying to get some rest here. We all are. This is no time for games. The game is staying still, Rarity, Rainbow Dash said flatly. Come on. Pinky needs to stay still for a bit. Why not help encourage her by joining in? It's not like you're moving either. Unless, of course, you're worried Pinky might win. She smirked, waggling her eyebrows. Rarity raised an eyebrow for only a brief moment, picking up on Rainbow's emphasis. Oh, that is hardly the reason at all, my dear Rainbow Dash. She dismissively laughed. I just find that it's rather unnecessary is all. Turning it into a game and all. Perhaps some pony else would want to play. Maybe, you maybe. Well, I already promised her a prize if she wins, so it wouldn't be fair to make me compete. Rainbow grinned. I think I'd like giving the prize as much as she would be getting it. Rarity blinked. Whatever do you... you know what, never mind. Really. I'm just not in the mood for this. It's dreadfully silly anyway. Rainbow teased. Is not? Is too, Rarity stared. Is not? Is too. Is not? Is too. Is not. Is too. I insist this game is unnecessarily and totally worthless and silly. Rainbow argued. And I insist it isn't. She's going to play this stay still game of yours and she's going to like it. Rarity huffed. Fine, have it your way. Rainbow shrugged, nudging Pinky playfully in the side. Pinkie Pie's sullen expression barely brightened at all, which only served to strengthen Rainbow's resolve. Her mission was clear. She'd do whatever it took to get Pinky to smile. She gave a pleading sort of glance to Fluttershy and Rarity. Fluttershy suggested, how about if we play 2 games then? Fluttershy, darling, that is neither here nor there. Rarity sighed. 1 game is quite... Oh. She stared at Rainbow Dash and shook her head. I suppose I walked right into that one, didn't I? I learned from the best. Rainbow shrugged, while Pinky wasn't looking. She mouthed to the unicorn and the other Pegasus. Thank you. Rarity very subtly nodded her head in response and continued on her false exacerbation. Well, no matter. I already agreed to it. We really should be focusing on resting our bodies and minds, not trying to compete with one another. What game did you have in mind, Fluttershy? Rainbow asked. It can't be too hard to play if you all have to be completely still while playing it. Well, I was thinking about shh. The Pegasus responded. Shh. Rainbow blinked. What kind of a game is that? It's a game to see who can be quiet the longest. I figure if we combined it with your staying still game and see who can stay still and be quiet the longest, if that's okay with Pinkie Pie. I'm in. Rarity hastily nodded, winking at Fluttershy. How about you, Pinks? You game? Rainbow asked. What's the matter, Pinkie dear? Rarity smiled. I hear Fluttershy is the world champion. Maybe you just can't handle the pressure. A dreadful shame. Really, I think it would be great fun to see how well one could stand up to a master. But if you think you're going to lose, well... Pinks, they think I'm going to lose at a game. Rainbow said, looking at Pinkie with exasperation. They've got to be joking, right? Go on, Pinks. Show them what. You two are on. Rainbow pointed at Rarity and Fluttershy. Well, okay, Dashy. Pinkie nodded limply. I guess I'll give it a try. That's what I like to hear. Okay, on 3. You'll be as quiet and still as possible. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Pinkie took a deep breath and just stared straight ahead mechanically. Rarity and Fluttershy following suit with a more visible enthusiasm. Peace and quiet. Mostly. Lockwood suddenly rolled over and let out a loud snore, making every pony present look at him with surprise. He'd been sleeping soundlessly until this precise moment, curled up nearby and busy recuperating in his own way. Fighting wasn't his forte, and fighting against Havocwing even for a brief few moments certainly hadn't done him any favours. But as he explained it wasn't so much fighting Havocwing as being target practice. He didn't have the heart to strike a mare. He kicked a leg lazily behind him and murmured a little in his sleep, blissfully unaware that he was being silently judged by every pony present. Well, Lockwood loses the game, I guess, Twilight giggled. He's moving and making noise. Rarity made to speak, but shut her mouth just before she did. She wasn't about to lose to Pinkie Pie in a game of being quiet, at least not so soon. She needed to keep up the act, is all. She did so want to voice her opinion on how snoring was most uncouth. Certainly not something any pony would want sleeping next to them. Fluttershy didn't seem to mind. The sound was comforting in a way to her, since it meant Lockwood wasn't in a bad shape after dealing with Havocwing, though right now she was more concerned that Pinkie didn't appear to be having as much fun as she'd hoped. Pinkie wore a blank expressionless face, as if she was only participating out of habit of playing games whenever presented the opportunity. Her eyes weren't even flicking between her competition to make sure she saw any movement or heard any sounds. Rainbow's frown now almost matched the one Pinkie had been wearing earlier. Pinkie wasn't responding as well as she'd hoped. Well, I guess for now they're all going to be okay, Rainbow sighed. Hey Twi, mind if I talk to you for a sec? Alone? Oh, sure thing, Rainbow. Twilight nodded. She followed Dash over several dozen yards away from the others into the somewhat secluded corner of the room, behind the massive statue Flav had been gawking at earlier. Over here they couldn't hear Tick-Tock and Flav privately chatting, or Lockwood snoring, nor could they even see them. Whatever it was Rainbow wanted to talk about, Twilight thought, it must have been something she really wanted to keep private. She figured it would be another lecture, like she'd already gone from Rarity a few nights ago. Twilight prepared herself for an oncoming onslaught of oratory obloquy. What seems to be that Rainbow hit Twilight in the face as hard as she could with her forehoof, knocking Twilight off balance. Twilight staggered and tripped into a nearby column and sank to her knees in both pain and shock. She could feel the sharp sting where Rainbow had stuck her. That hadn't been a playful jab at all. That had been a real punch. She slowly rose to her hoofs, rubbing her jaw. She shot confused indignation at Rainbow Dash, her mouth agape in shock. You hit me! Rainbow pointed an accusing hoof at Twilight, getting right in her face. That's for damn near getting us killed! Me? Twilight flustered, getting right back in Rainbow's face. How is any of this my... You just shut up and let me say my piece. I'm sick of nobody listening, most of all you. Rainbow spat, poking Twilight in the chest. Your determination to show off how much of a great leader you are. Yeah, it's almost... You almost just got us killed. You had no business speaking for the rest of us and saying that we didn't want to travel with Grayscale and her friends. Twilight glared. Rainbow Dash, those mares were obviously not to be trusted? Yeah, right. I believe that. The only reason they seem to want to fight is because you pissed Starlight off. Fluttershy would have been fine, and you know it. But no, we just have to separate from them because you can think of a better way to get through the problem. I tried to offer an alternative, Twilight snapped back. I didn't see you coming up with any ideas. My idea was to keep going with them and ignore the stupid ideas you thought up. All you had to do was say your piece about how Velvet was a jerk and let Starlight handle it. But no, that wasn't good enough for Twilight Sparkle. She had to put her hoof down and say to the ponies that were helping us get home, oh no, I couldn't deal with the pressure of having another thought in my inflated head. Now that's enough. That's enough, both of you. Applejack stamped a hoof. Twilight and Rainbow both turned their heads suddenly and took to look at the Earth Pony who had joined them. Y'all need to calm down. Rainbow, for you say something y'all regret. Don't you dare take her side, AJ! Rainbow sneered, taking a step towards Applejack. You were right there with me on sticking with them. You said so yourself. Those men are helping us. There was no reason to have to separate. Yeah, I can see why y'all'd be upset that Twilight decided not to keep us together. Applejack nodded. But that ain't no reason to be getting so darn upset, and definitely not enough to go around hitting other ponies. And y'all know it. More than just Pinky got hurt, you know. Just 'cause she's the only one y'all care most about don't mean the rest of it don't matter. And I know Twilight can't be feeling too good about what happened either. Apologize to her. She didn't deserve that. Yeah, whatever, Rainbow grumbled. I guess I got carried away. Sorry, Twi. Applejack frowned. She could tell an insincere apology when she heard one. That's probably the best y'all gonna get, Twi. It's alright, Rainbow, Twilight said sternly. Her horn glowed dimly as she soothed the stinging sensation in her cheek. Thank you, Applejack. I need all the support I can get. So it's nice that at least one of you still agrees with... Now don't y'all be getting hasty there, Sugar Cube. I never said I agreed with your decision, Applejack interrupted, causing Twilight's expression to droop. Y'all made some right boneheaded mistakes. Rainbow's right, I was on her side when it came down to brass tacks. At first I thought y'all were right, and that Fluttershy's well-being was more important and all. But then I got to thinking, and, well, y'all should have really thought harder about what y'all were doing. Picking a fight with those mares. I didn't pick a fight. They started. Twilight stammered. Applejack interrupted again. Y'all offended them. And y'all tried to use Fluttershy as an excuse, claiming to be looking out for her best interests and all. What? I was looking out for her, Twilight sputtered. Looking out? Twilight, the best way to look out for Fluttershy would be to do whatever it takes to get us home sooner. I hate to sound selfish here, but if Fluttershy was having a problem with that velvet mare, she'd only deal with it for a couple of days. That's all, just a couple of days. She wanted to brave them volcanoes, didn't she? Those were downright deadly, and she'd have to deal with them just as long. So I don't see what the difference is. Besides which, I ain't never heard her say nothing about wanting to separate from him. I heard that she didn't want to travel with that one mare, and that's all. We ain't never heard her say she wanted to be part of them because of that. Well, that's because you interrupted her, Twilight pointed. You were trying to convince her to agree with you. You have no idea what she was going to say. Don't start pointing hoofs at me. Applejack narrowed her eyes. Y'all are the one that made the decision to split up, even though you knew that was best for all of us. Was keeping going with them. Y'all heard TikTok we were making the best time we'd made all week. With their help, we were going to hit the coast in only a few more days. Now who knows how long that'll take. We ain't even know where we are exactly. That's my point, Rainbow agreed. All that little scuffle did was set us back. We're not any further ahead. We're not any better off. We lost a set of combat-ready escorts who were more than willing to travel with us until you went and upset them. And a few of us got hurt, Twilight sneered. I still don't see how the fight is mine. Here, I'll make it obvious then, Rainbow interrupted. Velvet scares Fluttershy. You overreact and try to separate our two groups. Starlight pleads to stick together. You refuse, and even after many of us disagree with you, you stand by it. Starlight, who obviously doesn't like it when things don't go her way, threatens to force us. Now, I ain't saying I agree with her, but she gave you a last chance to just suck up your pride and just let it go. And what did you say? I quote, if you can prove yourselves able to handle this, we can handle anything. No, if we can prove ourselves able to handle this, we can handle anything else in this world might throw at us. Does that sound about right? Yes, but Applejack nodded glumly. To me, Sugarcube, that sounds like y'all were just asking for trouble. You knew you had them freaky powers and all, and we all didn't. But y'all went through it anyway because you were overconfident. Not just in yourself, but in all of us. Y'all put us at a lot of risk, and for what? I mean, Fluttershy was willing to go with him after all, even if it didn't avoid tussling with him and all. Y'all kind of ignored her needs then, didn't you? Well, okay, but come on, guys, be fair. You all did fairly good. Horse apples, Rainbow blurted. You all got our butts kicked. Sure, if it had been out in the open air instead of a stupid cave, I might have been able to handle myself against a hothead like Havocwing. No problem. And Flathoof and Owl would have been able to get away from Grayscale. Maybe help out Rarity and Pinky so they didn't run into the trouble they did, Applejack added. And how do you know they wouldn't have tried something fishy later on? Twilight huffed. If Starlight has that much of a hair-trigger temper, then who knows if they would have even let us get to the coast in the first place? Applejack sighed. Well, I don't really know that. Y'all are right, but I didn't see no reason not to trust them until all that rough business went down. Sure, now we know they weren't really on the level or nothing, what with Starlight blowing a gasket on TikTok for, well, being TikTok. I'll admit that even I were in Starlight's horseshoes, I'd been a mite ticked off to hear all that there mudslinging. But that ain't no reason to go off and kill no pony, Rainbow added. But like I said, if they did try something later on, while we were out in the middle of nowhere, open air, I've got no handicap. That stupid Havocwing doesn't get the upper hoof on me. We don't have any problems at all. Piece of cake. This ain't the time to begin a fat head dash. Applejack rolled her eyes. What? I'm not boasting. I'm dead serious. The little rocket trick of hers is great and all. She's fast, I'll give her that. But I was flying at maybe 75% of my top speed because of the tight space. Out in the open air when I've got nothing sky and ground to worry about, no chance she'd keep up with me. Fair enough, Applejack shook her head. Rarity was right though, in the end. We all sort of nominated y'all to be a leader of sorts, so maybe not no fancy election or whatnot, but there it is. It's always been that way, Sugarcube. Even back at home, y'all are always the one to take charge of things. If y'all want to start acting like a leader, then maybe y'all should think about what's best for all of us, not just what y'all want to do. That's what I've been saying all week, Rainbow added. It was a majority vote, Applejack, Twilight groaned. I did what most of the group wanted to do. Fluttershy was emotional, Rarity was emotional. They made their choices because that was what was going on at the time. This is Rainbow Dash, isn't it? I'm guessing it's Rainbow Dash. And they base their decisions around themselves, not the group as a whole. Rainbow pointed. I learned something from Grayscale. When parties make decisions based on their emotions, they make mistakes. The rest of us all made the call based on what made the most sense. Even TikTok, despite her disagreeing with us, did that. And what was punching me in the face? Twilight spat. That wasn't an emotional decision. Is that what you're saying? Rainbow stood her ground. And so what if it was? Have you seen Pinkie Pie lately? She's not acting herself at all. That velvet creep messed with her head, and I swear to you, Twilight, if anything happens to her, I get it, Twilight interrupted. Rainbow, listen, Applejack chided. Y'all ain't the only one that cares about Pinkie. You understand? We all care about her. Just 'cause you and her got a little more serious relationship than we do, don't mean y'all gotta act like y'all the only one who cares. Like you're the only one who gets to care, neither. Rainbow's eyes narrowed. Oh, I get it. Now you guys are willing to bring it up. Till now, you guys have never said anything. Like you're all ashamed of us. But I see it now. Now you can use our relationship to make me feel worse about hitting, Twilight. So now you bring it up. Thanks, Applejack. Thanks a lot. Applejack snorted, but her face was soft, and she responded slowly. You hang on there a minute, Rainbow. That ain't what I'm doing at all. Ain't none of us ashamed of nothing. Y'all two got a special thing going, and while I can't speak for no pony else, I can't say I find anything wrong with it. All I'm saying here is, Dash, that we all love Pinkie. Sure, yours is a matter different than ours, but it ain't right to the rest of us that you think you're all the only one who gets to care, understand? There was a thick pause, and Twilight was sure Rainbow would get even more upset, but Pace's face was pensive. The moment passed, and Rainbow nodded deeply. Yeah, alright, AJ, you gotta share, gotta care, I guess. That's what she'd want anyway. Glad to hear it. Mind you, Pinkie getting hurt ain't the only problem we got neither. Granny Smith had a saying about this here sort of thing, Applejack nodded, turning back to Twilight. One bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. Now normally that sort of saying means that one jerk in a family can make the whole family look bad. But I got to thinking, and I think it applies here too. You see, a good apple farmer doesn't just get rid of the bad ones because they're bad. They do it to keep the whole bushel healthy. I ain't saying that y'all get rid of no bad apples, but I am saying you gotta be willing to see the whole bushel is more important than any one of its parts, good or bad. That's a real roundabout way of saying the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I've heard that saying, Twilight snorted. Fine, can we just drop it? For now, Rainbow said sternly. But don't think this gets you off the hook or nothing. You're just lucky Pinkie Pie didn't get hurt more than she did. The only thing that stopped the psychopath was Starlight. And even she admitted that all the fighting of fear or whatever had made Velvet strong and confident enough to resist. If we hadn't gone into the fight in the first place, that never would have been an issue. Velvet would have never gotten that little boost and would have been super easy to keep tabs on. In Sazwich, now we've got another problem to worry about. Applejack nodded. We ain't just racing against time to get home now. We're racing to reach the coast for those six find us again. I don't reckon they're too pleased about how things ended up. And now they know where we're heading and the route we're taking. We're in a mighty fine pickle, I tell you what. No, you're right, I'm sorry. I let my ego get in the way of what was best for all of us, Twilight admitted. From here on, I'll do whatever it takes to get us home as fast as possible. We've got you to help guide us now, Applejack. So at least we have a better chance than we did before. And when we get home, we can put all this behind us. We can relax and forget all this unpleasantness ever happened. Deal? She offered, putting her hoof forward. Deal, Rainbow agreed, putting her own hoof in. Deal. Applejack nodded, doing the same. They all shook on it and returned to the others. Judging from the lack of concerned or curious looks in their direction, it was clear that no pony had heard any of the arguing at all. Twilight breathed a low sigh of relief. All she needed was more lectures right now. It was bad enough Rarity and Rainbow and Applejack too had already berated her for her poor leadership skills. She had to keep her friends safe, get them home as soon as possible. That's all that mattered anymore. I'd say we're all pretty protected for the night. And I know you guys will probably need some sleep, Twilight announced. So let's just do that. We'll set out in a few hours. We don't want to give those six too much of a lead. So, TikTok nodded as the group prepared to move out. I examined your work on Pinky and Rarity, Sparkle, and I'd say we're safe to continue forward without incident. Every pony is refreshed and has enough energy to move on, I think. And since this area is all smooth and level, there won't be any strain on any pony's injuries. Now, keeping in mind that I have never been here before and haven't the foggiest how to get through the other side of the mountains, barring the go east mentality, I say we all stick together and try to work our way through as carefully as possible. Well said, Twilight nodded. I think we've had enough danger and excitement to last a lifetime. Let's try to avoid any more, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to experience any problems with Starlight and the others. Whatever that field was that kept Havoc Wing out is also keeping the rest of them out. And I haven't sensed that field break or Starlight's magic anywhere nearby. One more thing, TikTok noticed as she pulled out her map again. You'll notice that my map is updating itself automatically? True enough, as she pointed at the map, they could all see that while the majority of the map was completely empty, the area immediately surrounding their collection of multicoloured dots had filled out to match the layout of the room they were currently residing in. As they could see, it was perfectly circular and had dotted in a predictable pattern with columns, with the large staircase leading down into the rest of the ruins from the directly northern centre. And luckily there was no sign of the 6 other multicoloured dots anywhere nearby. They'd somehow given them the slip, and questioning how seemed to all of them a waste of time and effort. Golly, this here map is fancy, Applejack whistled, but why didn't it fill out the whole area? Why just want this one here room? The thing with magical maps is, while their range is unlimited, when looking at areas you already know, they can only fill in so much of areas you don't. There's a limited range on the thing, see? So it will update automatically as we go along. But that won't do us much good except for letting us know when we're about to wander around in a circle or something. So we won't rightly know what the right way is, Applejack nodded. But at least we'll know what the wrong way is, I reckon. Precisely, TikTok agreed. Seems awfully sketchy, Applejack said warily. I suppose he'll have to do with them. Well, it's the best we've got, so I certainly hope it's adequate enough, TikTok shrugged. Come along then, let's get every pony ready to move out. And who knows how long we'll be here after all. TikTok turned and headed back towards Flathoof to try and wake Clockwood up, followed by Twilight, Rarity and Fluttershy. She couldn't hear it from here, but Applejack saw Flathoof say something that made TikTok laugh. She sneered a little as she watched, but kicked herself mentally again. There was no time to get distracted by thoughts she'd told herself to ignore. She admitted it felt nice, like she'd wanted to fight alongside her back there, but that was neither here nor there now. It wasn't any of her business that he and TikTok were getting into while no pony was looking. Rainbow Dash caught Applejack's thoughtful look. You okay there, AJ? You've been giving TikTok these weird looks lately. What? No, I'm just fine. I ain't acting weird, Dash, Applejack said suddenly. Just something about relying on TikTok don't sit well with me. I hear you. I ain't trusted that mare since day one, Rainbow nodded. I'll be honest though, she really saved our bacon back there. The horse apples hit the fan, and she pulled us out of that mess, right? I guess she can't be all bad. Just seems mighty suspicious that she suddenly had one of them magic watches after she made a real big fuss about losing hers a while back. Did she really get a replacement where she says she did? Or has she had hers this whole time? Well, normally this is where Pinky would say something like, oh, cliche 47. Pinky moment next to Dash. 53. Right, 53. Sometimes the heroes get lucky. We are the heroes, aren't we? Besides, that'd be pretty low of TikTok to have something this whole time and not use it. She said it would have helped us right from the start, so why wait until now to bring it out? Exactly. Applejack nodded. Something don't seem right. Y'all gonna keep an eye on her? Y'all gonna keep an eye on her, you hear? Y'all see her doing anything suspicious, y'all come straight to me. Whatever you say, AJ, Rainbow smirked. If it means practicing my scouting talents, I'm game. The group began to move out slowly, though it was clearly with a great deal of trepidation. The party descended the set of stairs that led out of the lobby-like chamber, and began moving through the ruins proper. The ceiling high above prevented the sun from coming through, so all they had to go on that it was daytime was TikTok's innate sense of time. Well, Twilight admitted as she lit her horn up, at least it's not as dark as the caverns were. A tiny light came around the corner of a desolate hallway, followed by a trail of ponies. They all kept their guards up and were travelling rather cautiously through, all of them keeping close to one another and looking about them in hopes to catch sight of something trying to cause them harm, long before it could do so. The halls were steadily getting more and more narrow as they travelled further northeast through the ruins. They still couldn't decide if they were travelling through a very small city or through one massive building, or perhaps a combination of the two. As for all intents and purposes, they couldn't find much to go on. The walls were all mostly unmarked except by signs of wear and tear caused by, according to TikTok, nearly a millennium of neglect. Occasionally they spotted hints of something under the dust that coated them, but nothing that looked like it would help. Of course, all those hundreds of years also left a coat of dust so thick it may as well have been paint. So aside from stopping to examine every single possibility they came across, there was little they could do. Rarity made several noises of disgust and voiced her discontent as they went, adamant first of all about staying as far away from the walls as she could, and second of all about how hard it was to keep her cleanliness bubble, as she called it. While any real pressure would pop the spell, it did manage to keep her hooves from getting stained by awful evil dirt, as she put it. Twilight led ahead, followed by the others, all travelling in pairs and just barely fitting in the narrow corridors. Rainbow and Pinky were closest behind, followed by Applejack and Rarity, then Lockwood and Fluttershy, and lastly TikTok and Flutterhuff, the former of which also kept her own horn aglow as to help light the way to make sure the map was properly keeping track of their progress. Thus far it had all been very straightforward. No breakaway paths, no crossroads, no branching hallways. That all came to an end at a fork in the path they'd just reached. They all shook their heads as for the first time in what felt like hours, they needed to make a decision in order to move forward. Great, which way do we go now? Rainbow groaned. Flip a bit for it? Applejack suggested. Right, as if we've got any bits on us. Rainbow rolled her eyes. Nice try though, AJ. TikTok turned her map around to look at it more closely. She jabbed her hoof at it. Specifically where the hallway they were in was. Well, if there's any sort of rhyme or reason in Gryphon architecture, the left path leads northwest, and the right path southeast. Either one would be useful, really, but I can't be sure without knowing what's along the path. For all we know, the southeast path could loop around and take us back to the entryway. I don't get it, Twilight said with a nervous curiosity. How can anything hope to figure out where they're going in this place? There's nothing on the walls or anything that can tell us where to go. You'd think an advanced culture that could build something like this would have directions listed someplace. I remember reading that the Gryphons were experts with magic. Perhaps they didn't need directions anywhere, Lockwood suggested. Maybe they all had magic maps like TikTok has. A valid theory, TikTok agreed. This map of mine is of Gryphon origin, and... Wait, what? Twilight blinked. That map of yours is almost 1,000 years old. That thing's a priceless artifact. It should be in the museum, Rainbow blurted. Every pony looked at her in confusion. What? Daring Do says it all the time. TikTok continued. Anyway, no. See, chronomancers have a lot to do with time, so... Well, I'm going more into it, but I'm not exactly authorised to talk about it. Let's just say this particular map is not quite that old. These sorts of maps are not at all easy to enchant, so I doubt that every Gryphon had their own. I still can't pick apart what exact spells I used to make it work. I imagine the amount of magical energy it would take to make a map for every Gryphon citizen would be astronomical. Maybe it's under all their dust, Applejack suggested, pointing at the wall ahead of them. Looks like something's there, don't it? Twilight nodded. Maybe. Hang on a second. Here, let me, Applejack smirked. She pushed Rarity forward a little, causing the unicorn's soapy bubble to pop and clean up most of the wall almost instantaneously. Good heavens, Applejack! She yelped as she reapplied her bubble as quickly as she could. This entire place is simply the filthiest I have ever seen. My dress would be ruined if we stay here any longer. That was a dirty trick, Applejack. It worked, didn't it? Applejack snickered. Hey, look, Twilight called over. There's something written here. Hang on. It's not in equine. Drat. Well, obviously. TikTok rolled her eyes as she came forward. This place was built by Gryphons. 4 Gryphons. I doubt they were expecting any pony visitors to come trekking through without one of their own alongside them. Let me take a look. She eyed the writing carefully and shook her head. It just had to be in the ancient Gryphon language. Damn it all. I can speak Gryphon tongue relatively well and read it too, but this isn't a recent dialect. This section of the ruins must be quite old indeed. Twilight eyed the writing with more scrutiny than before, and tapped her hoof to her chin. Very strange. These symbols all look so familiar. I could swear I've seen this exact marking somewhere before. Really? Where? TikTok raised an eyebrow. Back at home, to be honest. Twilight nodded knowingly. See here? This symbol? The one that's like a griffin paw? Yes, what about it? Well, the symbol looks almost exactly like the ancient Gryphon language back in our Equestria hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics? Seriously? TikTok said flatly. Twilight shrugged. Well, that's what they called it. Like Rainbow said, they weren't known for their intellect or anything. So they came up with very simple names and descriptions for most of their stuff. I remember bits and pieces from the ancient civilizations and societies, so maybe I can read it. Let's see. Wow, I really am rusty. The organizational structure is pretty strange. I can't tell. As she lifted her horn closer to see, the symbols on the wall began to glow a faint purple. Twilight stepped back in sudden surprise, causing the glow to stop. Whoa! What the heck just happened? Twilight tilted her head. TikTok stepped forward. Here, let me see. She lit up her horn and attempted to read the symbols better, but no matter how close she got to the symbols, it didn't glow for her. Well, bugger all. I have no idea. Don't worry about it, TikTok. You can't read the stuff anyway. Twilight smirked. She leaned back in again. The glowing symbols lit up once more. Well, now see, that's just weird. Why is it doing it for me and not for you? Who cares? Rainbow huffed. Come on, just get on with it. Alright, hold your horses. Let's see. There's something in one direction called Theatre of War? What does that mean? Lockwood, who'd now joined them at the front, scratched his head. War? That seems unlikely. The Gryphons were a pacifist society. Those don't sound like our Gryphons. Rainbow shook her head. Gryphons back home are aggressive. How could the Gryphons be pacifists? They fought a war. We have evidence to that fact, TikTok stated. We have evidence they lost a war, not that they actually fought or anything. Lockwood pointed. And just look at the architecture here. Everything is smooth and orderly, but very complex. And there's a lot of walking about to do. Assuming a Gryphon's sociological attitude is anything like a pony's, it stands that a structure designed for action would be very simple. Look at the MPPD Central Station, for example. All the important stuff is right there at the entrance, and there's little walking needed to get anywhere for anything. The police are very busy ponies, so they don't like to waste time, the corruption of it all notwithstanding. Flair raised an eyebrow. Since when were you an expert on sociology? Lockwood grinned. Hello, massive personal social network? I think it should be obvious that the best way to make friends is to understand what makes ponies tick. Well, okay, assuming it is not war, maybe it's some strife? Theatre of strife? Twilight added. I don't know why, but this symbol just makes me think about fighting or arguing or something. I don't recognise it, but somehow I just know that's what it means. Maybe some kind of debate hall, Lockwood suggested. That makes sense, TikTok hummed. Gryphons were known for being scholars, too. Lockwood pointed along the left path. If it were my guess, I'd say it would be in the western section of the region. And where exactly did you come by that kind of guess? Fleur blinked. Well, despite Pandemonium being a pretty nonsensical city as far as the documentation and government are concerned, you have to admit this place is built extremely orderly, right? Well, now that you mention it, yeah, that seems about right, Fleur admitted. The city is perfectly circular and all the important structures are all within hoof reach if you live in the right place. Where are you going with this? Well, take a look at the map we've made so far, Lockwood noted while prodding a hoof at TikTok's map. According to this, we're in a pretty southeastern section of the city. Assuming this is a city after all, considering the size, the left path leads northwest, right? A debate forum sounds like an entertaining venue or something of that sort, you know? Like a museum or an art centre. Those are typically located in central locations to maximise business. TikTok blinked. That's actually extremely well thought out. Lockwood proudly flexed his wings. I have always had a fascination with society's little nuances. Helping to know how society works if you're going to try and touch all the bases and make friends in the right places. Huh, interesting. Okay, so this symbol, Twilight pointed to a star-shaped symbol, seems to mean, a place of health? No, house of health, I think. I just get the feeling house is the word whoever wrote this intended. Most likely a hospital then, Lockwood nodded. Again, makes perfect sense to have a major medical centre in the central location. I think I can make out the directional symbols now, Twilight hummed as she looked at the curved marking. I think this one means left. It might mean northwest though, since that's the way it's pointing. Lockwood's right. The left path leads towards the debate hall and the hospital. I can't read some of the other symbols though. They all look like they were damaged somehow. Well, that's in the other direction then. Well, what's in the other direction then? TikTok asked. Hang on. Twilight hushed. It says here that it leads to a couple of things. The endless observatory? Well, space is mostly endless, so that makes sense. And something called the Sanctuary of Knowledge. That one is very exact. Whoever wrote this wanted it to be clear that it was definitely called Sanctuary. I can't quite make out the third one though. The symbols have deteriorated too much. I'm getting a mixed reading on it. Well, let's use that as a starting guide then, TikTok noted. The Sanctuary of Knowledge sounds interesting besides. Maybe it's some kind of library or information depository. We might be able to find a map or something there. Well, it's a start, Twilight agreed. Come on then, everybody, to the Sanctuary of Knowledge. Hooray! The librarian wants to go to the library. What a surprise. Rainbow Dash rolled her eyes. Another hallway stretched ahead and then abruptly came to another fork. Twilight brushed more dust and dirt from the wall and uncovered yet another set of directions. Let's see, she hummed. Okay. To our left it leads back to the Endless Observatory, which I still would like to visit over this dumb old sanctuary or whatever, Rainbow grumbled back to Applejack. Whoever heard anything about something exciting happening at a library anyway? Last I checked, there ain't no daring do in the search for the dusty tome in the collection, and there sure ain't no daring do books in this kind of library anyhow. Probably a bunch of books on like history and science, egghead books, not good books. Applejack grinned. Also maps, so we can get the hay out of here? Right. Rainbow flustered. Yeah, forgot about those. And to our right, the Sanctuary of Knowledge is, according to this, either 20 paces ahead or 200 The writing here is damaged a bit, so I can't tell if it's one or the other. But it makes a little difference, right? A little walking never hurt no pony. Well then, let's keep moving, shall we? TikTok nodded. They all set along the path they'd agreed upon, some of them counting aloud the steps they were taking. Oh jeez, TikTok sighed. Every pony just stop. Remember the Gryphons are bigger than ponies by a factor of roughly 1.5 to 1. So 20 paces for them is like 30 for us. Hear that, Pinks? Math! Rainbow prodded. Come on, math jokes are your favourite. Can we hear one? Pinky sighed. Let's see. Here's one. Why was 7 afraid of 9? Twilight raised an eyebrow. I don't know, Pinks. Why? Rainbow eagerly asked. Because 6, 8, 9. You get it? Wait, what? TikTok blinked. I think you got that one wrong, Pinky. Oh, I think you got that one wrong, Pinky. Fluttershy admitted nervously. I did? Oh, Pinky mumbled. Shoot, sorry. Hey, Pinks, it's okay, Rainbow hastily added. We all forget punchlines sometimes, don't we? Several paces ahead, the party suddenly was forced to stop. There was a wall directly in front of them. Not so much a wall, though. It was a slab of some kind that had been built to bar the way, made of a similar material to the rest of the corridor and floors, but slightly different. More grey than silver and significantly smoother. Well, shoot, Five grumbled. We only went maybe 60 paces or so, right? Not quite 200, you said. Not quite the 200 you said, Twilight. I told you I was rusty. The hieroglyphic symbol for 6 looks a lot like the one for 20, so maybe it said 60. I don't know. But what's it matter anyways? Besides, there's more writing here, so maybe it can tell us what we're looking at. Twilight said hastily, beginning to clean off the dirt there. Oh wow, there's a lot of it. This is more than just directions or anything. That's for certain. Yeah, I suppose if it was, it would say something like closed or go back. Lockwood nodded. Or like business hours or something. Maybe it's a door. Maybe enthusiastically blurted. Well, library's closed, guys. Let's just turn back around and that won't be necessary, Rainbow. I think Lockwood might be right. Twilight nodded. Rainbow scowled at Lockwood when nobody else was looking. It's made of a different material than the walls are, and does a lot less dust too. It's almost fairly recent. At least compared to the rest of this place. Let's see. Okay, I think I've got it all uncovered. Golly, that's a lot of writing, Applejack gaped. What's it say, Twire? Oh my, this is complicated. It seems to be written in a sort of very odd manner. The symbols are arranged really weird. Almost like written equine, but with hieroglyphic symbols. Hieroglyphics don't typically organize themselves like this. They tend to be organized in more of a circular structure, not in straight lines. Well, darling, don't leave us guessing. What does it say? Rarity asked. Twilight cleared her throat. Well, I'm still a little rusty on the standard facets of speech in hieroglyphics, since most of the stuff is written with proper nouns. So some of these symbols are terribly unfamiliar to me. I'll try to take a guess based on the context, though. What does it say? Rainbow rolled her eyes. Don't rush me, Rainbow, Twilight said sternly. This isn't as easy as it looks, you know. I wish I was the expert treasure hunter Daring Do was, but I'm not a fictional character. I have limits. So, let's see. Okay. As best as I can tell, it says, "Those dare enter here, worry not, no fear." Wow. This is sounding like it might be a poem or something. But the grammar is absolutely atrocious. Who puts a poem on the wall in the middle of a hall? Rainbow rolled her eyes. Hey, wait a second. Wall. Oh, hey, guys, I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. Ain't that a good one, Pinks? I've heard better, Pinky admitted. Rainbow crossed her forelegs in defence. Well, even if they are fictional stories, the Daring Do books are pretty informative. Rhyming junk on a big old stone tablet blocking the way, it's gotta be a riddle. Well, it would help if we could understand what it said, Rarity huffed. Hang on, Twilight hummed. I'm having trouble reading some of this. Let me get some more light on. Suddenly the tablet glowed very dimly, and all the symbols and scratches shined a bright purple. The ponies all stepped back a bit, watching in surprise and awe as the glowing markings reorganized themselves magically until they all turned into letters they could recognize. The tablet now appeared to be written in equine. How did you do that? Fluttershy blinked. I don't know. Twilight scratched her head. I didn't do anything but intensify my illumination spell. This is more impressive than what happened with the other ones on the directional signs. Who's complaining? Applejack smiled. Y'all can read it now, yeah? So what does it say? Right, well, yes, it definitely seems to have some sort of rhyming scheme. It says, "To those who dare enter here, you mustn't worry, you mustn't fear. For below our greatest might will one day make what went wrong right. Our sanctuary delivers a call from whom might resist the fall. All you require is a shining force, but it must glow from a proper source. Some come forth now, little strangers, mark the sign, the face the dangers. Bravely venture far below, to gain the power only we know. Or forever dream till you go mad, what may have happened if you had." A warning? Flutter suggested. No, Rainbow Dash is right. It definitely sounds like a riddle. Oh, that was TikTok, damn it. TikTok hummed. It sounds to me like this sanctuary of knowledge is more than we thought. It talks about facing danger and stuff like that, Rainbow added. I mean, this is so cool. Straight out of Daring Do in the Forbidden Temple. I told you guys there was something you could learn from those books. Well, if it's a riddle, what does it mean? Rarity turned to the others. These kinds of riddles, you gotta go through every line one by one, Twilight nodded. I used to solve some of these in my spare time back at school. Okay, so, well, obviously the first two lines are just a welcome. TikTok bore a hoof to her chin. Next line. For far below, our greatest might. Well, that sounds to me like the sanctuary is below us. Perhaps this leads to some sort of elevator. I know Gryphons invented the original techno magic that the modern ones are based on. Okay, so it talks about making what went wrong right next, Twilight added. Well, legends say that the Gryphon Kingdom was buried centuries ago towards the end of a great war, TikTok explained. So maybe the sanctuary contains a method to help reverse the effect. Fascinating if it's true, of course. The Gryphons were also supposedly known for being pretty boastful and arrogant. What's this bit about resisting a fall, then? Rainbow asked. Seems to me like the Gryphon Kingdom already fell, so, maybe only a creature that is good at heart can enter, Rarity suggested. Resisting the falls of one's soul? An interesting thought, Twilight mused. The next line, shining force. Obviously a reference to magic, as I know for a fact that most ancient cultures refer to magic as light and force. So there's that. But proper source? Whatever does that mean? Rarity tapped her hoof to her chin. Well, as I've said before, there are 3 sources of magic: law, chaos, and void, TikTok explained. So we need a type of force that uses one of those. I highly doubt it's void magic, seeing as how it's impossible to contain. Unless your name is Starlight Shadow, of course. Twilight side. I still say you're wrong. It has to be either light or dark magics. Oh boy, here we go again. Applejack rolled her eyes. This is hardly time for debate, Sparkle, TikTok groaned. Let's just assume that it's not void, and be done with it. Besides, in this case, light and law would be similar enough, and that one of us would be able to claim that as a source. Let's just ignore that one then, Twilight agreed. Well, the rest of it is all flavourful stuff to make the place sound more fancy, except this one. Mark the sign. Mark the sign. Perhaps the method of entry? Seems to be, TikTok nodded. What sign, though? There's nothing in this dingy corridor. What about that sign that led us this way? What about that sign that led us this way? The one back at the fork? Oh, please, that's silly. Twilight rolled her eyes. It would have to be something nearby, like a keyhole or something. But how would we mark it? Hey, what about this? Lockwood called, pointing at a little marking on the floor behind the group. Looks like a mark to me. It's pretty similar to the hieroglyphics we've already seen. We're looking for a sign to mark, not the other way around, TikTok sighed, walking over to see. Well, Flourish suggested as he leaned down to examine it. It does look like more of those symbols, doesn't it? And the symbol is a sign of sorts. Now we're just connecting the dots where there aren't any. TikTok rolled her eyes. It's a chink in the floor, it's not a bloody sign. Twilight leaned forward towards the tablet blocking the path. Hey, wait a second. Aha, here it is. She pointed at a marking on the tablet bottom. I think so, at least. Let me just get some more light on. As her horn gained in luster and she lowered her head down to see clearer, the marking suddenly glowed a bright purple. Without warning, the floor of the section from the tablet to about a foot away from the marking that Flathearth, Lockwood and TikTok were hunched over began to glow a brilliant white. What the? Twilight mouthed. Sparkle! TikTok yelled. What did you... And in an instant the 6 ponies standing on the glowing section of the floor vanished without a trace, leaving TikTok to stumble forward as the floor stopped glowing. Oh bugger, why the hell does this keep happening? The tablet was blocking their way. Suddenly began to rumble. The tablet that was blocking their way suddenly began to rumble, and in an instant it crumbled away into nothing, as if it hadn't existed at all. TikTok blinked at the empty space. Where are they? Flathearth panicked. Where'd they go? If it were my guess, they're probably fine, Lockwood suggested calmly. Gryphon seemed peaceful enough, and I doubt that was a trap. My guess is that Twilight marked the sign, so they're probably at the sanctuary, wherever it really is. Come on, no time to dawdle, TikTok commanded back to the 2 stallions. We have to find them. That bloody wall or door, whatever it was, disappeared for a reason, so we're going to find where this hall leads. Has to lead us to them somehow. I do hope they're okay. Flower sighed as he followed behind TikTok. Keep your chin up, Flathoof. They'll be fine, Lockwood said reassuringly. I still have no idea how you keep in such high spirits in situations like this, Flower shook his head. Are you 2 blokes going to yap back there all bloody day, or what? TikTok shouted behind her. Flathoof and Lockwood nervously looked at one another and quickened their pace. Wherever Twilight and the others had gone to, it couldn't have been far. At least, that's what they hoped. Right, that was Chapter 18 of Crisis Equestria. So, yeah, I suppose it just got further. And when I thought about the Gryphon Ruins, I kind of thought, like, If anyone's played like Jack and Daxter, they'd like know what I'm talking about. But one of those kinds of like temples or ruins or whatever. But like precursors and stuff. But anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, keep on spreading the magic of friendship, and I'll see you next time.